All right, everybody, welcome to the Fantasy Sports Boss podcast here on Yahoo. This is the Fantasy Sports Boss. Hit that subscribe, hit that notification button if you're new to the channel. So, a lot of stuff I wanted to talk about today, but specifically the Justin Fields situation as it pertains to the NFL draft and what his situation could look like going forward as the Chicago Bears correctly, in my opinion, start to take a look and maybe get an idea of what they could get for Justin Fields while retaining the number one overall pick in the 2023 NFL draft. So this is something I started talking about, I would say about a month ago. And the predominant reaction on the video, and if you go back on the channel homepage, you could probably find the video where I discussed this about Fields getting traded. It was almost like, it seemed like I was just making stuff up. Like, no, the Bears got their player. They're never going to trade Justin Fields. He's their guy. Look at how unbelievable he was doing a Lamar Jackson impersonation in the middle of the season. And just like I was just making it up out of thin air. The reason why I had brought up that idea in the first place was twofold. One, as tremendous of an athlete and a runner as Justin Fields is, his ability as a passer is very sketchy and open for debate in terms of how good is he really going to get. We saw in the fantasy football playoffs down the stretch of the season when Fields was beat up and was not running much at all, he was just an ordinary player. He could not throw the football. Now, I know the Bears didn't have offensive weapons, but neither did Daniel Jones for the Giants throughout the course of the 2023 season. And he brought the Giants to the playoffs, throwing to Richie James and Daniel Bellinger, and he won a playoff game. So Fields, who's an even better runner than Daniel Jones is, and Jones is one of the better runners in football among quarterbacks, was pretty terrible as a pure passer. And that was the knock I had on him. Anybody that purchased my NFL draft guide a couple of years ago, and the 2023 NFL prospect draft guide has been available on Amazon since January, so make sure you go check that out, the Fantasy Sports Boss 2023 NFL draft guide. But as far as Fields and my write-up on him as a collegiate player, I was very concerned about his ability just as a pure passer. Doesn't read defenses well. Ball placement is not great. It's still not great. His accuracy is not great. He doesn't have, the finer mechanics of the position escape Justin Fields. Now, his athleticism, ability to run, pick up chunk yards on the ground, off the charts. Like, literally, only Lamar Jackson might be better in terms of running the football. And that does help him as a passer because it opens up larger windows to throw. When the threat is there to run the ball, Fields is going to have more window, more space to throw the ball because the defense is going to sell out for the run. Thinking correctly that he's going to hurt a defense more as a runner than he will as a passer. But when Fields was beat up, as he was for large stretches of the season, he takes a lot of hits and all that running. He can't carry the offense throwing the ball. So possibly the leadership on the Bears are saying to themselves, and they're having these conversations now that they have the number one pick. And it wasn't expected. If the Texans don't stupidly beat the Indianapolis Colts in the final week of the season, the Texans have the number one pick, and this whole thing might be a moot point. But the Bears can take who they want. And you have Bryce Young, who might be, who is in him and CJ Stroud are my two guys. I've kind of gone back and forth on who I think the number one guy is. I like Stroud slightly more than Young because he's got a better NFL build. He can throw it, good accuracy, can run. He's got the NFL frame that Bryce Young doesn't. And we saw Bryce Young, he got injured quite a bit in college, and that's a valid concern about him. But in terms of accuracy, Bryce Young is off the charts. I mean, he is just one of the best balls I've seen in a really long time. Very smart, very fast. He's got Jalen Hurts 2.0 written all over him. So you want a comparison to Jalen Hurts, that is Bryce Young. All right? And I think Bryce Young is going to be the number one pick in the draft. And I think it could be the Chicago Bears. And I'm really starting to get behind this. Now, Mike Tannenbaum, who I respect greatly, former Jets GM, worked with the Miami Dolphins front office. He has opined on this publicly as well. And honestly, it makes sense. If you're the Bears and you think that Bryce Young is going to be the better quarterback than Justin Fields, you make the move. You take Bryce Young and you trade Justin Fields, and you will get 2 first-round picks for Justin Fields. So the Bears would get the number 1 pick. Let's say it's Carolina. Let's say it's Indianapolis, 5th, 6th pick, whatever it is. You get that pick, probably a 2024 first-round pick, and then maybe a 3rd or a 4th. I think that's what the package would be. 2 firsts, and then a 4th or a 3rd. All right? And then they take Bryce Young. That is a win-win. The Bears need help everywhere. They need help on the line. They need help at receiver. There are a lot of holes to fill. So I think the Bears are getting very tempted to make this move. Now, mention the Colts, mention the Panthers, mention the New York Jets. These are all teams that are going to be in on Justin Fields, the Atlanta Falcons, the Raiders, hell, maybe even the Green Bay Packers. So there's going to be a robust market for Justin Fields. I don't think the ceiling is there for Fields like it can be for Bryce Young. And we saw, remember, the Arizona Cardinals did this. They had Josh Rosen, who they used a high first-round pick on, quickly realized correctly that he was garbage, and then they draft Kyler Murray, and it worked out great. Now, Kyler Murray, he's immature. He's a little bit of a diva, maybe not even a little bit. He is a diva. He's battled injuries himself, and now there's some turmoil about his attitude, but he's a phenomenal player. There's no doubt about it. And the Cardinals made a tough call, maybe not the most conventional call after drafting Rosen, but it was the right one. Nobody would criticize that move now. And I think the same thing with the Chicago Bears, with Justin Fields. So this is something that we have to watch. Getting back to the top passers, I think Bryce Young's going to be drafted, I think, first. I think the Texans are going to wind up with C.J. Stroud, and I also think they're going to take Quentin Johnston too. So they're going to pair those two together. Will Levis of Kentucky, where does he fit in all this? Now, he to me is more of a wild card. Will Levis, he's got the NFL frame, he moves really well, really strong arm, but didn't always show out well against top teams in college. There are some mechanical issues with him as well. Took a lot of sacks, held on to the ball a little bit too much, just going over my notes here. A little overconfident throwing the ball in terms of trying to fit it into the smallest holes. He turns the ball over more than you'd like. You have Anthony Richardson, who I think is going to be a top 15 guy. With running quarterbacks now all the rage, Anthony Richardson is going to be a top 15 pick from Florida. He is Justin Fields, Anthony Richardson. Another guy who's got accuracy problems, ball placement issues, but can run like the wind. Phenomenal athlete. All right, those are the top 4 guys. Hendon Hooker of Tennessee, he's going to be somebody that's going to be looked at. Of course, he's coming off the injury. Tanner McGee of Stanford. Stanford quarterbacks always do well in the NFL. Andrew Luck, John Elway. Even Davis Mills has not been horrendous. Jaron Hall of BYU, Stetson Bennett of Georgia, Jaden Daniels of LSU. So these are guys that are all going to wind up being drafted. But the big 4 I gave you, those are going to be the first-round picks. So that's something we have to watch. As they say, where there's smoke, there's fire. And I think that's the case with Justin Fields here. So we'll have to see. All right, hit that subscribe, hit that notification button. More videos on the way soon.